I asked all of you to give me questions at the end of 2021, and you sure delivered. I feel like I could answer almost everything to some degree, but if I don't, I'll delete my Brawlhalla account. I don't know, no skips allowed is all I'm saying. I don't think you guys asked anything bad anyway, so. I tried to gather the most frequently asked questions to get to the most people, some casual fun ones that I thought would be interesting, and my mods actually gathered a handful that I've never seen before, so who knows, I might actually be starting a new fresh account by the next video. It's also been months since I've seen any of them. I'm stalling, let's just start. Lemon Soup asks, how did you get into Brawlhalla and how did your first few tournaments go? I don't actually remember how I got into Brawlhalla exactly. Either a friend told me about it from school, or I was just browsing free-to-play games on Steam. I used to do that all the time. I just go through like 30 pages because I didn't have any money. I couldn't buy any games. And from there, I just started playing casually a little bit after school was over. I started on keyboard and mouse, but then I thought you had to play controller because it was my first fighting game. I had no idea. So I swapped to controller, then the controller broke. I swapped to keyboard again, and here we are. As for tournaments, I remember very early on I was interested in what top level looked like, so I googled around, I found the Brawlhalla Reddit where they were talking about tournaments and competitive play and stuff like that, and that's kind of how I got involved in the community. I started climbing the ranks a little bit. I found Raven, who was one of the figureheads at the time. He actually went on to get hired by BMG, which is pretty cool, but he was like, yo, I'm gonna run this tournament. It's called the Sweet and Salty Saturday Smackdown. Anyone can join, free to enter, and I was like, that sounds great, that sounds perfect. Why not give it a try? This will be my first tournament, and I believe I ended up getting top 8, which was pretty cool, and I was like, all right, I'm hooked. I love this. So I entered another tournament. I think it was called MT10, Mini Tourney 10. I believe that was my second one, and I actually ended up winning, and that was awesome. Now, keep in mind, the game was much smaller back then. It took like 3 rounds to get to top 8, and I also won like a hammer skin for winning the tournament, so it's not that impressive, but it still felt pretty good, and it was a good way to get into the competitive scene, get that mojo, that spirit, and I'm always grateful for that. Speaking of, Alid asks, I know you've already stated your opinion on competitive play in tournaments, but with LANs most likely coming back, has your mind changed any? Yeah, so this is by far one of the most common questions I get. I did make a full video on it, which is what Alid is referring to, but the Cliff Notes version is, I'm not sure. There's some conditions that are required. It requires me moving, graduating, also improving my mental, which I've been doing a lot, so that's a lot better, but yeah, I'm not sure. Also, a lot of the LANs might be invite only this year just to mitigate any kind of risk on Brawlhalla's hands, because they're the ones running it. They don't want any kind of liability, which makes sense. So I don't know. If I get invited to any, that would be cool. I'd love to do like a man on the street interview stuff with some of the top players, some of the developers. That would be cool, but otherwise I just don't know. I also might be moving to Korea next summer to study, so that would get in the way. Yeah. Another super common question that I get, I'm just gonna tag it along here since it's related, is will you beat the Sandstorm? Can you beat the Boomy? Will you beat the Eggsoup pro player here? No? Probably not. I would hope not. I think most pro players are likely leagues ahead of me. I don't know if I'd be able to do much at all, but who knows? I legitimately have never thought about this or care to think about it really, so go out, live your dreams. I don't know, smoke some animal crackers. Let's move on. Q&A, if Brawlhalla didn't exist, where would you be right now? That one's easy. Probably in a ditch. What are your opinions on Scythe in terms of balance, and also how does one consistently beat the Taros? Luckily, Frit has me covered here. Real talk, how is life going right now? Tell us what's going on, how you feel making content, university, social life. Tell us our story about anything that happened in 2021, and etc, etc. Yeah, this is also a very common question I got. It's fine, it's good. School was well. A story that happened in 2021. I don't know. I didn't really go outside at all because of the old pandoozy, but the car almost exploded in the middle of the freeway and I had to cross the road and buzzer beater poo before the rocks in the beach overtook me with the splashing waves. That was kind of wild, but otherwise not very eventful. Max asks, do you think Brawlhalla is the best fighting game, like in comparison to Smash Bros? No? Yes? I don't know. This is another thing, I just don't think about this at all. I don't think so. Everything has its own merit. Everything's different, that kind of meme, but yeah, I don't know. I really don't care. If it's fun, it's fun. Everything's fun for different reasons. I don't think stuff has to have value only in comparison to others. Maybe that's a cop-out, but I don't know. That's just how I think. Do you see yourself playing other platform fighters and diversifying your channel with games like Smash, the Nickelodeon one, Warner Bros, so on and so forth? Or if other platform fighters aren't your jive, your Jamba Juice, what other games or genres do you think of maybe covering? Yeah, I'd be down. I made a Nickelodeon All-Stars video when it came out. That game, the netcode, I was very saddened by it, so I didn't end up playing it very much. But I'd be down to try the Warner Brothers one. I'd also love to make videos on other games too. I've written out a script for Risk of Rain commentary, Risk of Rain 2 that is. I love Risk of Rain 2, so I might make just commentary videos with that, but I don't know. It's just based on my interest, really, and I get bored of stuff really fast. It's really hard for me to find a game that I like, so it really mostly depends on that, but I'm down to try. Oh, it's Fizz. Fizz asks, is escaping reality or accepting reality more important to you? That was a shift. More specifically, knowing that the balance of the two is optimal, which do you think helps you more in the long run? Okay, we went from 2D Flash games to some existentialism here. I don't know if I'm qualified to answer this, but it seems like in the question you kind of know it's like balance of the two is probably good. Escaping reality, sometimes it's necessary, sometimes you gotta get through the day. You know, you just went through something rough, you need to play some games, you need to do some work, just time heals all wounds, but you gotta get through the time somehow. And then other times you gotta just sit down and tackle the emotions, I guess. I don't feel good about answering this, but it's probably in the long run it helps to accept stuff when you have bandwidth and then escape stuff when you don't. Super Matthew asks, other than anything YouTube or YouTube relate, okay, what has your biggest accomplishment been thus far? I don't know how to answer this without being like a pompous troglodyte, but I guess doing well in school with undiagnosed ADHD in hindsight was pretty cool. I don't know. I feel like I'm a better person than I was last year, but I don't know if that's also a cop-out. I'll say, okay, I make my family laugh consistently. I'd say that's probably my biggest accomplishment, because it's pretty impressive for someone that's not very funny. Zachary Taylor, that's a president, asks, pretty broad question, but what is your best advice to getting better at Brawlhalla other than just playing the game more? Additionally, are there any tips on improving my movement to make it less predictable for my opponent to hit me? Yeah, this question has been asked and answered by 1,000 people in 1,000 ways in 1,000 songs, some of the same 4 chords. So I'll try to respond in a way that maybe you haven't heard before. A lot of people think that in order to improve, you need to get better at everything. But the real answer is to take one thing at a time, which I'm sure you already know. But another layer to that is if you can take a Zipfian approach to your prioritization, knowing that on average, 80% of the problems come from 20% of the places. If you spend most of your time on that 20%, you'll see a lot more progress than trying to piece together every single part of the puzzle. And you're kind of intentionally ignoring the majority of what you see because it's way more efficient to put the time into stuff that'll make a bigger difference than it is to try and just get better at everything at once. And that also goes for movement. Like if jumps, for example, are your issue, maybe you're always jumping at the same time when you whiff, or jumping the same way every time you approach, or your opponent baits out your jumps. Things like that. Dodge mix-ups, I think, are the example that people talk about the most. But anything, really. It could be anything. Your dash timing, your chase dodge timing. The idea is just to hone in on the stuff that makes the biggest difference first, and then you can start expanding once that's kind of worked out. Do you enjoy reading? I do. I used to read a lot more. I think everyone that answers this question probably says that. I've been trying to do it on my own more recently, so I read 1984. I really love that book. That was super great. I'm not going to share what I'm reading because I was reading Catcher in the Rye, and I was like, hey, I'm reading Catcher in the Rye, and then people were like trying to spoil it for me. They were like telling me what happened in the end. That book's like 70 years old. That was just crazy. Do you have any big projects that you're working on at the moment that you're willing to share? Not at the moment. I made that video a little while back where I was talking about how I just don't have the time, unfortunately, to make any kind of project that's not just a one-off recording because of school. I do have some stuff on the back burner that I was working on in 2000 BCE, before computer engineering. I don't even do that. So maybe those will come out next summer. I'm on spring break right now, so this is the only thing I can make. My spring break's like 5 days, and then back into the hellhole I go. It's actually not bad. I don't mind it. I got a melodica. Lord Squid asks, will you be doing any podcasts? I find your voice soothing. That is surprising to me, given especially what I just did. Okay, this is the issue. I just see stuff and I just gotta, I gotta grab it. I gotta slant, like, okay, this is right in front of me right now. This is the problem. I don't know if I could do a podcast. It's a lot of work. If I get invited to one, maybe I could do it as a one-off, but I really don't have time, unfortunately. Kitsu1102 asks, so, egg, Strong start. I wanted to know what's been your favorite game throughout this year or favorite release from this year. Releases is pretty hard. I almost never play games on release. I don't know why. I just don't. I can maybe think of 3 examples in my life. Overwatch, Risk of Rain 2, and Nick All-Stars Brawl. But favorite game of the year, and I'm guessing you're talking about 2021, probably Celeste and Super Auto Pets. What sorts of crossovers would you like to see come to Brawlhalla? Luckily, I came prepared. Q&A, what was it like going to your first tournament/LAN? Also, I know you're probably never going to see this, but I just want to tell you you're amazing. It's crazy because I still haven't seen it. My first tournament and LAN was Final Round 2016. It was actually the first ever Brawlhalla LAN. It was awesome. It was amazing. I remember just meeting the devs. I met Tivorus, I met Dinohedron.
Eggsoup, how greedy can you get, man? How greedy?
I met Steven, who I did not introduce myself to him, nor ask his name because I was so nervous and so awkward, but nobody knew who I was at first because I never showed my face and I still kind of try not to, so I just went along with it. It was really interesting though because we were tucked in the side in a little tiny room because it was a main fighting game tournament, and I had to play on keyboard and controller in bracket because multi-keyboard just didn't exist. Keep in mind, we were in beta at the time. Chase dodge wasn't even in the game officially. We had to turn on test features and it was this golden dodge for chase dodge. But yeah, multi-keyboard support just didn't exist, so they're like, oh, we can drive to the offices, which are like an hour and a half away, so that you guys can play one match, or you can just both play controller. And I was like, all right, well, we'll just both play controller. I actually ended up winning the tournament, which was pretty awesome. So technically speaking, I'm the first ever LAN Brawlhalla winner, official Brawlhalla LAN winner, which is one of the lamest trophies to have. But I think the cooler one is that I'm the first person to ever win an official tournament playing both keyboard and controller en route to the eventual championship victory. So it was definitely something, that's for sure. What was your favorite game to play when you were younger? Oh, you're gonna open up a rabbit hole here. So the first games that I ever owned were Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Red Rescue Team, and Kirby and the Amazing Mirror on the Game Boy Advance. Love that game. The first game that really blew my mind was Super Mario World, also on the Game Boy Advance. My parents got it from a shady store in Vietnam for like 6 cents, along with a handful of other games, like Wario Land 4, Yoshi's Island, I think a couple more, but because they were all bootleg cartridges, none of them could properly save, except for Super Mario World, so I played that one the most. And then my favorite game of all time is Team Fortress 2. That's the one that really changed the trajectory of my life forever, because it introduced me to online games and gaming on YouTube. At the time, I only really regularly watched Ryan Higa, but after being introduced to TF2, it was... that was crazy. It expanded to like the Meet the Team videos, and I remember there was one for every merc except for Pyro, which I figured was because he didn't have a mouth. And then they announced Meet the Pyro was coming out, and I probably pissed myself. I was so happy. And then eventually I started watching Star and Jerma, and then the snowball of events that led me to this chat right here today. I still go back to TF2 every few months, and if my internet was better, I'd love to stream it and play with members of the community. One day, I know a lot of you guys play TF2 still, so I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever be as excited or mesmerized or happy for anything as I was playing those games when I was younger, and I don't mean that as a bad thing. When you're a kid and you have that completely unfiltered bubbling emotion, whether it's sadness or joy or anger, and nothing is as pure as that, or will probably ever be. But when you get older, you gain the ability to truly understand and reflect on the moments you go through, which in some ways can be a much deeper experience. So it's not better or worse, it's just different. I don't know, I love talking about these old games. I want to get to as many questions as I can, so I'm not gonna dwell on it too much. But yeah, Team Fortress 2, Super Mario World. Kenji asks, what is your reaction when people blame the weapons and balance after losing? I'm like, okay, and then I don't think about it ever again. I think it's normal to get mad and upset and want something to blame as an instant reaction after losing. I think everyone does that, but it's different when you like convince yourself it's true. But I don't know what's going on in other people's heads. It could be a billion things. So if I just see an initial reaction, I'm like, yeah, that's how things go. And then we move on. What do you think about the games released this year? And to me, you have the nicest comment section among Brawlhalla YouTubers. Do you think so too? I literally had to Google what games were released in 2022, so I don't know. Klonoa Fantasy Reverie series looks great. As for the comment section, I will say I did put a lot of active effort, and I still do, into making it a more positive environment. There's a lot of like shadow banning of people that are really toxic that goes on, so I think that keeps it at a nice level, but in comparison to other people, to be honest, I really don't watch Brawlhalla on YouTube at all, so I have no idea, and I really wouldn't like to be compared anyway, so I don't know, everyone's doing their own thing. I am very proud of the Discord community. I think people in there are really great, so I'm just happy with what goes on here in this little ecosystem, and whatever happens outside of that is whatever happens outside of it. Have you heard the Guilty Gear Strive OST? I have watched Joker, yes. Society, your society. How much time does it take you to make a video? It can vary a lot, anywhere from a few hours to multiple months depending on the size and also depending on the goals. What do you think about climate change? It's bad. What was your first time in Silver like? Describe the moment you got into Silver and how it was like being in Silver. I don't know if I can describe the moment I got into Silver, because back when I started, I don't know if you just started in Silver right away. I do remember each rank progressively. This is also a question that I got, so I might as well answer it. Gold was the hardest for me. I remember being stuck in there for maybe a few days, and then once I got out of Gold, I never really looked back. Plat comparatively was so much easier than Gold, because I think I already kind of got a handle on the game, and again, it was my first fighting game, so it took a little while, but getting Diamond, I remember this vividly because Diamond was top 100. There were only 100 Diamond players in the entire world at the time. So again, the game was very, very different. Ranking up, very, very different. But it was super cool because only in top 100 did you get a big thing that said top 100. And I was like, wow, I'm top 100 in the world. That's so cool. So that was my journey throughout the ranks. I honestly can't remember how long it was in Gold. Maybe it was a few days, maybe it was a week or two. I could not tell you, but I do know the feeling was, it was like a big hurdle. It was like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to play this game. And then once I got through that, it was smooth sailing. It felt much more natural, much better. And then I was able to get into Diamond. I eventually got rank 1, which was like the first time I did that. I was like, oh my god, that's so cool. I did it for a tournament seed, I believe. And then I lost the tournament. Chill Kento asks, hello eggsoup, I need you to be honest here. I won't. How often do you play Brawlhalla and what tips would you give to a small Brawlhalla YouTuber? I play a lot less than most people would think. If I'm playing Brawlhalla, I'm either recording a live commentary or recording background footage. Very rarely do I ever play if those aren't happening, and I don't have that much time to play to begin with, so it's really not that much. Maybe an hour or two a week. As for tips for a small Brawlhalla YouTuber, I might not be the best person to ask, because honestly I think a big part of why I am where I am today is just because I started super early. I didn't really do anything very special. Nowadays, it definitely helps to do stuff that nobody else is doing, because a live ranked commentary or a live commentary about Scythe is something that tons and tons of people are doing. So if you're just starting, it's very difficult to get your foot in the door with something that other people are also doing in mass. What I will say is Brawlhalla is still relatively new in terms of the video space. I know for sure I'm not doing everything I could, not even close. And so there's a lot of room for someone to make unique stuff, or even make general stuff that's just done really, really well. I would say don't get discouraged by the early numbers, because that can be really disheartening on your mental. Try and separate from that, focus on making good videos, and I think Brawlhalla is in a place where if you do that, you will succeed. Good chance at the very least. Alright, I took a bit of a break. I got myself a snacky. People have been asking for longer videos, so I suppose this is it. Poncho Mike asks, where did your passion for psychology come from? Like, what made you realize you enjoy learning and talking about it? I think it probably just came from a genuine desire to really understand myself better, and once I realized that some of the things I was experiencing was not just me and I wasn't a complete weirdo freakazoid, it kind of morphed into wanting to help other people with the same thing. Kaden asks, what are some things you wish you did or prioritized before you turned 18, or maybe things you are glad you prioritized? To be honest, I can't really think of that much, because I feel bad judging my younger self for not doing stuff, when in reality I know it was really difficult. Like, socializing is a big thing, but it was really difficult, and I was going through a lot of anxiety and stuff, so I don't really blame myself. To be honest, I really wouldn't worry too much about it. As long as you don't slip too far into degen mode, you can start new things at any age, and the idea that you might fall behind your peers or something, it's a little bit of a mental trap. People change their careers in their 40s, their interests in their 50s, develop new skills in their 60s, so there's plenty of time to figure things out. Secret is that most people, and me included, probably have no idea what's going on, and also, according to canon lore, I'm like 9 years old anyway, so I can't answer this question. After you tell people IRL that you make YouTube videos and they check out your channel, what do they say, and has anyone ever recognized you? Yeah, they are so impressed. It's crazy. People go nuts. No, I don't tell anybody, so I like to keep things very separate. I have been recognized though. It was a little awkward, but it was fine. I think after being in tournaments and also streaming, people know what I look like now, which I don't know if I like that, but it is what it is. When you were a kid, what did you want to be? Are you proud of where you are now? Yeah, when I was little, I wanted to be a pizza delivery guy. I wanted to be a firefighter. I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to be an astrophysicist. And then I wanted to make videos online. So am I proud of where I am now? I mean, absolutely not. SSJ9 Devil asked, do you see a point to life? That's crazy. Is it just a dense amalgamation of the elements in the universe taking its natural course through time? Do you divide me? I don't know. Sure? Just do cool stuff. If we're talking scale of the universe, then nothing we do really matters, so if we do something cool, then that's a cool idea, because it's like doing it in spite of the nothingness, I suppose. Everyone poops and pees, so that's kind of funny. Do you feel like you're missing out on Brawlhalla professionally because you live in the West Coast? Yes. How can you not get bored of this game after this long? It's probably because I take a lot of breaks. I've never been a huge mega super grinder because I get bored and apathetic so quickly. I also, like I mentioned, had undiagnosed ADHD for like 20 years, so maybe that has something to do with it. I started playing around May or June of 2015, if I remember correctly, which is almost 7 years. And over that time, I've logged around 3,300 hours, which is a lot, but comparatively, it's nothing, especially compared to people who started around that time. And when we consider a big chunk of those hours are just pure AFK hours, grabbing replay footage, editing while the game is open, or just leaving the game open for whatever other reason. I think being generous, maybe a third of those hours is just pure gameplay time. And to give a tangible example, there's Remy, who started around the same time as me. He has 10,000 more hours in the game. Boomy, who started 6 months later, has like 7,000 to 8,000 more across his different accounts. And Dobrain, who quit over 2 years ago, still has nearly 4,000 hours more. So I hope that puts it into perspective. I think it really just comes down to I've played the game less, so it's probably still more fresh. If you had one major piece of advice for all Brawlhalla players, what would it be? That's hard. Probably learning how to take a loss. That's how I think you'll grow the fastest. And if you can notice the thought to make an excuse for yourself entering your head as it happens, it's much easier to calm down and be constructive about your play. What's your real name? Stanley. Here's a question. What is your current setup for recording and making videos? I use OBS to record the game in audio, then I edit it in Premiere, upload just the voice to RX9, I believe, for some basic audio editing, import that back into Premiere, render that. As I'm rendering, I usually make the thumbnail in Photoshop, and my monitor is 144 Hz turned down to 120 Hz so it can record smoother because it's a multiple of 60. It's not great for Brawlhalla, or not optimal, I would say, but I'd much rather have smoother video than I play slightly better. All you really need though is something to record. OBS is free, and something to edit. DaVinci Resolve, I believe, is free. I just add some of the extra stuff because sometimes I'm a force of nature about small things, and if it's free, I definitely paid for it, then why not use it to make stuff just slightly better? Really unnecessary though. Alright, on to some questions gathered by the moderators in the Discord. If you could suddenly master any game genre of your choice, what would it be? I think the obvious answer would be FPS games. Not only is there so much money, but it's a lot of fun to click heads, and if you just had instant game sense and godlike aim, that would be pretty cool. But I think speedrunning Mario 64 would also be pretty cool. One of those. What are your favorite roguelikes? Well, one of my favorite games of all time was Risk of Rain, and then Risk of Rain 2 came out and I liked it even more. I've also played a ton of Dead Cells. I think roguelikes are just insane at attacking my psyche because the randomness keeps it fresh. So if I had to put a tier list of my favorites, number 1 all time, no contest, Risk of Rain 2. Number 2, Risk of Rain 2 modded. Do you actually want to become mostly a variety streamer but are scared of what your community would say about it? No, not really. Not at all actually about the community part, but variety streamer, I think that would be cool. I think the biggest thing is just knowing it's such a huge time sink. It'll take a lot of work and I don't have the time to do that right now. I think the biggest thing that I would say I am scared about is just reaching out to more creators. It's such an awkward thing. I'd love to play games with other streamers, other people that make videos, but it's so strange when the relationship is like based on numbers. I don't like that. It makes me feel yucky, so I don't really do it that much, but I should more. It'd be a lot of fun to make more friends who also stream, and then we can play games together. That'd be cool. If you could learn an instrument apart from the piano, what would it be? Ginbis Value Pack cheese crackers. It's good acoustics. Spotify Wrapped? That's not a question. Yeah. If you could change your username to something else officially, like on YouTube and Twitch, what would you change it to? I'm you now.